finding out what the customer wants. The most frustrating thing for a customer on the service side is trying to get somebody on the phone. Service, please hold, right? And there's a lot of great AI out there that's handling it. But at the end of the day, and it can schedule the appointment, but at the end of the day, that customer has to physically go into that store.
In an industry as dynamic as automotive, understanding the current state of the market is as crucial as steering its future. This week on Facts Not Feelings, we dive into the art of leadership and amid rapid technology shifts and market fluctuations. I'm Brooke Furniss, and joining me today is the one, the only Tim Cox, the co-founder of CarNow, to discuss today's industry leaders, how they're navigating these challenges. Tune in as we unpack the strategies and insights that are shaping the modern automotive landscape. Tim, my good friend, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am amazing. I'm absolutely, not to steal from Dave Ramsey, but I am much better than I deserve. So it's always fun. We always have a blast just talking. So I'm just happy to be here there, Brooke.
I am stoked. And I want to go back in time here for a hot minute. So for those that maybe are new to the show or didn't see, this is round 2 of you being on the show, but my whole show exists. The title of it exists because of you. And I was probably, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago-ish. DMSC was still Napa. Heard you speak. It may have been for the first time. We kind of knew of each other, but didn't really know each other. And you dropped down something along the lines of facts, not feelings, or something along those lines. Like, I remember like writing my little notebook, and yes, I'm still writing with pen and paper. And I was like, holy shit, that was a great line. And then I approached you. And so just thank you for everything you do. You've obviously got an incredible company. And anytime you speak, like people just know to like shut up and listen because you're going to do something incredible. So just thank you so much for you.
No, I thank you for the kind words. I'm going to have you follow me around and just give me an intro everywhere I go. But in all seriousness, I mean, it's really, that's the basics. I mean, let's talk about, there's a lot of stuff. We just came back from NADA. There's a lot of great companies out there, but at the end of the day, give me facts, not feelings. Seriously, give me it's okay to have feelings. I think the market's going to go here. I have a feeling on this guy or girl to hire, but at the same time, give me the facts and at least let that be the majority of, the decisioning, what makes my decision. So, even I spent something unique to us. There's a few other companies like that out there, but, I spent multiple decades behind the desk managing salespeople and pre-owned manager and all these different chairs. And everybody's Miss America on a job interview. Everybody's Miss America when you see a demo of software. They're all the greatest, but you haven't seen my dashboard. And oh, look what's behind door number 3, all the above. But at the end of the day, it's about selling and servicing cars. And that doesn't change. So thank you. Very true.
Yeah, and it's something that there's a big pet peeve of mine when I sit on so many demos or the latest and greatest at widget, and to have to delineate of, okay, is this actual facts or is this because you want your dashboard to look really pretty? And it is still astonishing to me how many times I've got to make sure I ask the right questions and get those referrals, not the top 3 that they're going to give you that they're best customers ever, but those other 5 or 6 to be like, hey, does it really do X, Y, and Z? And come to find out, even though they told you that, it's not even close to that. So really taking the time, it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And those that know me, like, hey, give me the data and I can do the rest of that because that's not going to lie. So let's jump into this. I'm really excited to do this episode with you. So let's jump into this bad boy. Let's go. All right. So the automotive industry, it continues to evolve at with rapid technology advancements and with massive shifting economic landscapes right now. So what strategies would you recommend for dealerships to navigate these changes effectively?
At the end of the day, people are still people. And I think that knowing the facts, right? Interest rates are higher than they have been in quite some time. There's some hope of them coming down this year, but right now they're higher than they have been in quite some time. I had the privilege to sit at the JD Power, even though the weather I got the day before NADA, and it's common knowledge that cars are more expensive now. The average car price is $47,000 versus 36 and change or 37 and change just a couple short years ago. And then you add on top of that eggs and beef and milk and everything's expensive. To quote Alex Vetter when he was interviewed on the Car Dealership Guy, he feels, as we feel, I think he's spot on, that shopping by payment is extremely important. And I happen to be sitting in a dealership right now, and I'll quote Kevin Deutsch on one of the most favorite things that he said. He's got a bunch of incredible one-liners, one of the best operators in the country. And he said, it is time that we as dealers sell cars the way people want to buy them, not the way we want to sell them, right? And that's at least adding. And the disconnect with, whether it's digital retailing or shopping by payments, people, during COVID and the pandemic, people were forced to put a widget on their website, and people treated it like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come, right? And nothing happened. Nothing happened. So I've got some other statistics that we can unpack there, but I'll come up for air for a second. But that's the state of the union. I'm sitting in dealerships that are stagnant, that are backwards, but I'm also sitting in dealerships that are crushing last January and crushing, last year, and they continue to move forward. And it's those forward thinking, but it all goes back to leadership, which we may get into in those stores, that understand how their customers want to buy a car, and then duplicating the process from what they've done online when they get into the store. And
there's so many things to unpack there. I mean, I remember it goes on going over January numbers, and I look at them pretty frequently. I was astonished how many dealerships were up, not even year over year, but month over month. You went from what historically and statistically is the busiest month of the year. And
December,
yet I had so many stores in January, they were just crushing December's number. I was like, what is going on right now? So right. It is, and it really looking to see from the culture, we'll get into leadership and all that, but really taking all of that and saying, regardless where you stand politically, this is not a political show, but saying, hey, okay, so this person now leads. Okay, how do we tailor our message, our process, our everything to adapt to that? Because it's being nimble and being able to say, okay, I'm going to go this direction versus this direction. If this happens, A, B, and C happens, I'm going to do D, E, and F. But really taking that time versus getting so caught up in what I feel. I mean, we can go on and on about the Starbucks experience, the Amazon experience, any of those, Apple experience. If at any point it was disjointed as it is in the car industry historically, we would never have the repeat and referral. They would never have the repeat and referral business that they have. This morning went to Starbucks. They know me on a first name basis. I order my stuff. Unfortunately, they've done away with some of the free refills, but that's a whole other story. But I'm there all the time. And if I ordered something on my Starbucks app and I get there and it's not there and it's not ready, there's like this first world problem of like agita that creeps up to me, and I get all frustrated. I'm like, what? I ordered this here. I mean, but we do the same thing in automotive all the time. Like, hey, just go back we know you filled all the stuff out online, but why don't you just go back and sit in line for a hot minute and then we'll have you do it all over again? Like, there's no way those companies ever succeed, but we do. So
and look, there's other companies other than ours that it's just, the biggest part is a consumer is going to because, again, what Alex Fetter said, people are shopping by payment. They're going to shop. They're going to take the time to put in their trade information, possibly do a soft pull, work their payment, look at the car. All that data is there. It's easy, and it is as easy as saying, "Hey, did you shop? Did you find a car online when they come in, or did you a lot of those set appointments before they come in?" But just not having to double entry that trade, not having to double entry their insurance or their and slowing the process. And oh, by the way, guys, it's human behavior. Those deals tend to make more gross. In fact, PVR on those deals are between $200 and $400. Why? It's, again, human, because it's easier. And we can't get that. There are some dealers that we have that still just get them in, hey, boss, customer's on the phone. What a price on the Escalade, just get them in. But it's when we handle them that way that not only are we selling more cars, somebody's going to give them a price. Somebody's going to give them a price, and they're going to come to the dealership and they're going to buy a car. And it's the dealerships that are doing that and doing it on a consistent basis that are not only selling more cars, they're obviously making more money.
Well, and to that point, and this is not a pitch fest. I'm not trying to do that at all. I just know when I was in the dealership, I specifically chose CarNow based on the capabilities of the tool. And I'll tell you, when I look at a lot of data. It's what I do. I'm a data nerd. It is crazy to me still how many, when done correctly, that they close I'll say the chats are going to close at a higher rate than some of the website leads, which is insane to me. But if you start to think about how the consumer wants to interact with you, you may feel that chat sucks and we're not going to do it, when in fact, that's not the case. Because I can tell you, if someone calls me, I don't know their number, I'm not picking it up. Like, there's just no way. If I've started a chat with you, I want to continue to converse that way. It's easier. I may be at work. I can multitask, do things. So just also looking at your process to say, okay, are we making it as seamless as possible for the consumer? Or are we putting a widget on our site and never going to touch it again and expecting AI to take over the world and just do everything for me and not think that a human needs to be involved, which they do, in case you're wondering. They do.
Yes. Yeah, and they do. And at the end of the day, and again, there's a lot of great companies out there, and we have stuck our toe in the water. In fact, we've stuck our whole foot maybe up to the knee with AI. In fact, that's why I'm at this dealership now training on our new AI solutions. But we looked at, and we're taking a more thoughtful approach to AI. I think AI today, February 3rd of 2025, is a lot like the EV market today. I think that if everybody in the United States drove an EV vehicle today, we'd have a problem. Yeah. We'd have a problem. There's not enough with no politics, not enough charging stations, range anxiety. We didn't, all the things. But today, everybody in this country could drive a hybrid. Yeah. So that's why we push the customer further down, answering the customers as easily as possible. And it's the handoff. That's the difference. That's why I tell people all the time, and we're not pitching any, I'm just saying, don't look at my report. Don't look at my competitors. Look in your own. You want to see if something, go in your own source report. If everything's tagged correctly and everybody's great and everybody is doing with this, but go into the source report. And if we don't raise that, or you went to X company and that lowered, then there's a problem. So look, if you're not selling more cars, then that's a problem. But guys, it's really that easy. So I do think it will evolve. Will it eventually get there? But the human beings inside the store, pressing flesh and shaking hands, doing the walk around, it's never going away. It's just not. It's just not.
I agree. We just touched a little bit on EVs and all of that. So because the technology is evolving so quickly, and you look at the like EVs, you look at autonomous vehicles, how should dealers adapt their strategies to stay ahead, even as the market demand fluctuates?
Well, I think, again, everything, and again, it's very difficult because a lot of this is going to be addressed based on the new administration. There's a lot of things that were in place on the last administration as far as mandates on OEMs. We saw, unfortunately, the amount of money that Ford lost investing and putting the mandates of such a year, having everything EV. So I think it just depends on the market, the PMA, the projected market area of that dealer, and understanding every dealer, every good operator knows the top 5 pre-owned cars that are not going to last a week, right? They know their market. And there's some, obviously California has a ton of EV business, one of the biggest states in the, coast to coast. There's a lot of, depending on your market, I would just say knowing your market and then serving your market. If you have a big EV, you look at the registrations, pull the Polk data, whatever you're going to do on that EV and market around that. But I do believe some of the, obviously now we know that ICE vehicles really aren't going anywhere, but it's just another, I look at it as, a brand of vehicle. I'm sitting in a Lexus store. Do you sell more ESs or more RXs, or, do you sell every TX or whatever? You should just know your market and overcome and adapt there.
And that's something that I think too often we get so caught up in other frivolous things. I mean, I'm in Illinois. I can tell you that Naperville is one of the Naperville areas. So you've got a bunch of different surrounding cities around that area, but it's one of the highest for EVs. So now if you go one suburb over, that might not be the case, but knowing that, okay, if I'm going to do EVs and I'm going to jump right into it, or whatever it may be, it doesn't have to be EV, I'm just using this as an example, is to know your market area, to know, okay, this is how then are they just going to sell themselves, whatever that may be, or what is the message behind it that I need to have? Because once again, we get too caught up in our feelings portion of it and be like, oh, I hate XYZ, when in fact, your consumer's telling you with their pocketbook that they like it. So getting that out of the way and understanding that this is going to work best for the dealership and the consumer. So we talked about AI just real briefly. I want to go back to this for a hot second. So obviously we see, sorry, not EV, AI. AI is just like off the charts.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. And I jokingly said I need to change my company name to like BZ Consultants AI CDP, because everybody seems to be AI and CDPs. It's not AI. It is Brooke. I think it is. We'll see when this comes out. Maybe it is AI at this point.
Right.
But how should dealerships utilize AI technologies to embrace service and customer engagement more effectively?
I'm going to give you facts, and then I'm going to give you feelings. Okay. I'm going to give you facts, okay, without mentioning any names. But there are a lot of companies out there that, like we said, demo well, and AI can do everything. And 73%, and won't give you a number, 73.2%. And we were talking about this before the show. And I think it's because of our handoff. 73.2% of the customers, obviously, people leave, try new things, and that's okay. But 73.2% of the people that left us in Q1 of last year are now back with us. Now, that's a fact. Here's the feeling. Here's the feeling, but here's the fact. You need, like we're doing things in as far as service scheduling, and there's a lot of great companies out there, but again, finding out what the customer wants. The most frustrating thing for a customer on the service side is trying to get somebody on the phone. Service, please hold, right? And there's a lot of great AI out there that's handling it, but at the end of the day, and it can schedule the appointment, but at the end of the day, that customer has to physically go into that store, right? Or some people are taking a hybrid approach. We're talking about service now, that bleeds over into sales, is we ask the customer using a CTA or using a QR code. There's a lot of dealers that are, or at least our customers, that are printing a QR code on their oil change stickers. They're just scanning a QR code. Yeah, I want to make a point there. Boom, 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 boom. Push it all the way down. Someone calls back just to confirm the appointment, and we're seeing massive increases there. So I think it based on your market, depending on your PMA, and then on the sales side is a little trickier because, on the service, they know what service they need. We have to get them in the funnel, get them in the lane, because we know facts, over 70% still to this day buy a brand new car and then they service it at Jiffy Lube, at Midas, at why? There's two perceptions, cost and time, right? And we don't need to go down the rabbit hole on service. That's just a fact. But in reality, the cost is the same. The oil change at Jiffy Lube is still $100 or whatever it is. An oil change at the dealership is still $100. But the perception of time, I can get in and out. So when you break those walls down, you get those people in your service department sooner. And I would argue that service sells probably more cars and more repeat cars versus, people leaving. And on the sales side, it's the same thing. People have choices. We just have to different. That's why we created CarNow. I had to, in my Lexus store, differentiate why you needed to come to my store versus somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. And answering those questions quicker, and to where everybody else was like, what's your name? What's your number? When can you come in? That's what we were founded on. What's your name? What's your number? When can you come in? Oh, let me get my manager. When you use those Chick-fil-A words, right? How may I serve you? It's my pleasure. Mm-hmm. Something happens. So I think that it's definitely a beautiful tapestry, a cocktail, whatever acronym, whatever analogy you want to use, of using technology partnered with the human touch in all the dealerships that are exceeding and continuing to raise the mark. That's the secret sauce.
I love that. This is a long time ago, probably like 8 years ago, if not more. And I'm sitting with a client, and he was the GM at the time of the store, and he had his mom in the store. And when you start talking, I can talk to you about anybody. So we start chatting it up, and she just goes, yeah, I go get my car service. I go, just out of curiosity, your son works at a dealership. Do you go get your car serviced at Jiffy Lube or some independent shop, or do you go to the dealership? And you tell me why. She goes, there's no way I'd go to the dealership. And I go, I'm just curious why. And her son is like shaking his head. And she goes, oh, it's so much more expensive at the dealership. He shakes his head and he goes, Mom, what do you think it is? What is the last time you went to Jiffy Lube? What was it? She tells him the price, and she goes, just so you're aware, ours is cheaper by like $20. And so we just went over the pros and, the benefits, the pros, cons, whatever. But it is that perception that we get caught up in. I was like, what are you doing to tear down that wall, whether that be that or anything else, to say, this is actually what's happening, and making that brand statement of this is who we are. I've got a client that I'm working with right now, and I just go, so tell me some of your, not that you're the biggest dealership and you have the most cars, like CarMax is going to have more cars than you, but let's talk about it. And when you get down to like what actually makes them tick and what makes them so great, that makes a huge, huge difference on that, because now you can have a branding campaign about that, and people are going to buy the person first. The car comes separately. Service, yes, service. Without service, we have no repeat referral business. We have to have service in there. So I love everything that you talk about there. And I want to segue a little bit, because this is something I know you're very, very passionate about, is leadership. So with that, as when you're looking at how you define effective leadership within a dealerships, and then what traits do you believe are essential for leaders in today's automotive retail environment?
Very passionate about this. um, we actually changed our podcast name. And I tried to look, and I'm not being pious, but I got enough to do. We've tried to kill the podcast a couple of times just on time, and the response has been so overwhelming, and I'm humbled. But our podcast is Tim Talks Leadership and Beyond, and I'm sitting in one of those stores today. As I have the privilege to travel the country, there is one, and this is not debatable, there is one common denominator, and the dealerships that are overachieving, gaining market share, like the one I'm sitting in right now, that is, as far as Atlanta, probably not the most hoity-toity, in fact the lowest hoity, but has more market share based on days in stock than any other store, I believe, in Atlanta. And it's one word, and that's leadership. I think the biggest character trait that I see in those leaders is humility. We get success and we go into a conference room like I'm in right now, and in our brains, we've already made our decision before we hear everyone out. It's the dealers that I love this quote, and I tell my team this all the time, and I heard it from, it's not unique to me, but I heard it elsewhere. I don't have to be right, but one of us has to be right. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that mindset of truly pouring into your people. And those are the kind of folks that I want to hang out with. Those are the ones that I'm interested in, that I wish I had the opportunity to walk in lockstep with when I was sitting behind the desk. And we've had the privilege of interviewing not only some great car people, men and women. The most encouraging thing to me is that they're great human beings. And I think there's nothing wrong with, we have to be confident, but there's a fine line between confident and conceit. There's a fine line between, being the smartest person in the room when you look at your financial statement at the end of the month and you've killed it and nobody can tell you anything, So I think that humility and confidence at the same time, but pouring into your people. I will take it a step further. And people that have talked to me for any, or know me for any length of time, I'm a big John Maxwell fan, but he said something almost 2 decades ago that changed my life. And most of us in this car business are like me and you, type A, where we run 1,000,000 miles an hour. We do want to help people. Sometimes we miss the boat. But I'll tell you this, he gave me 3 words that changed everything. He said in the talk, he said, look, I can't control what happened yesterday. Now, me personally, I'm going to review that game film. I'm going to learn from yesterday. And none of us are promised tomorrow, but I have today. Just for today, insert. Just for, so it's those, I have today. And for me, when us as leaders, and we walk around that dealership, as I just walked around this one, when we say, you know what, just for today, I'm going to treat other people as though they're more important than me. When you start with that mindset, do I fail? Yes. Do I have bad days? Yes. When you start with that mindset, woohoo, you talk about pouring into your people. You talk about taking those, I tell you, 35 years ago, as a 17-year-old kid, I started selling cars and I started doing really, really well. And then I was getting the banter from the old guard. The old guys had been selling cars for 20, 30 years. And that it was a brand new dealership and they still had ashtrays inside the dealership. This is Kentucky. So, they're smoking and joking and they're trying to pour poison into my ear, right? Because I was crushing them. This little 5'5" had to be short little guy. And I'm not tall, but he was shorter than me. So that's short. So little 5'5" said, hey, Tim, let's take a walk. So we walked up on top of the hill. I've told this story thousands of times. We walked up on top of the hill. His name was David. And he said, I just want to let you know that I see greatness in you. I see you have so much potential. And he pointed at a house. And I still know the house. I have a picture of the house because it's in my hometown. It's in Oak Brook subdivision, if anybody knows where Florence, Kentucky is. And he pointed at the house and he said, you have the potential. One day you could have a house like that. And my eyes as a 17-year-old kid got this big. But he took the time to pour into me. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about it 35 years later, 36 years, you know what I mean? So when we have that foundation of humility, I in our podcast, I close out every podcast. No one is smarter than everyone, Let's
Yeah.
just get better together. Hey, let me learn today. I might learn today from my receptionist. I might learn today from my custodian. They see things that I don't see. When we have a heart set and full of humility, and then we understand that we don't have to be right, but maybe my people can see something better. Guys, that's the collective, that's the blue zone per se. That's the overlapping color wheel that I see success in dealerships is they have leaders that lead that way, and it's huge. It's just it's time after time after time again. I guess it could be debatable, but in the overachieving stores they have general managers and ownerships that think that way.
Man, I could just end the podcast at that point. So no, it is so true. I mean, before I got in automotive, my background is in the medical field, and I worked with Broadway shows that toured around the world. Awesome experience. But I can go back and tell, period, no, hard stop, period. I can go back and look at the tours that were, maybe they were more lucrative, but they were not as successful. And there's a huge difference because it is top on down. I know that as I started as a medical personnel for them, I morphed into company management. And I could tell you that those tours I was on that had a very toxic environment, man, they were horrible. And it's a lot of fun, to be wrong. It's like a never ending after party. That being said, when you're spending 13 months at a time together 24/7 pretty much with people, you've got to have that locked down. And I can go back and look, and I know this one was the best one because of X, Y, and Z, and it was top on down. So it does make such a big difference where you can go to that person and say, or the management and say, hey, this isn't working. I had this idea. I talked to a friend last night and I found myself, maybe it was my ego, or maybe it was more that I was just getting a little, what's the word I'm going for? But I was kind of going back at him because I asked him to look at something for me and give his opinion and how I could better it. But what I found myself doing was like getting defensive, like, no, let me explain. I'm like, no, Brooke, he's been doing this a lot longer than you have. You can learn from him. Shut your mouth and see if this is really something that can help you. Or if hey, maybe not this time, but next time, but too often we get caught in this. I'll go back to the ego. The ego gets in the way that, well, I'm better than you. I know more than you. I've been doing this longer than you. You've only been here 2 days. But I go back to Nathaniel Greklich, his episode just aired recently. And they brought in someone that had never been in auto, and look what it did for them. I mean, so you can learn from anybody at any given time if you'll just open your mind and your heart to it. Couldn't agree more with that.
That's a fact that there's no feelings there, maybe a little bit of feelings, but there's again, it's just not debatable. We have, the car business gets a bad rap, on the outside world, but I would argue the car dealership is usually the center of the universe for most local towns. We sponsor the baseball teams, we sponsor, the gymnasiums, and when there's disaster, we open up our stores. I mean, there's just some good, incredible human beings at car dealerships, and more people need to know for sure.
Amen. So let's go a little bit more on the leadership portion of this. And because you are so passionate about this, you are a great leader in yourself. What strategy have you seen prove effective in developing merging leaders within organizations? And then how do you identify the leadership potential?
So first of all, I've been asked this question a lot because we grew really quick. And first, there's no perfect company. Things happen, and the bigger you get, the more issues you have. People leave, people come. But that steadfast anchor, I think, is extremely important. The brand that you create, is extremely important. I really believe, because people say, how did you guys grow as fast? And again, I'm going to quote Maxwell here again. It's the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. Like there's something happening here. Perfect example is I'm just sitting in this dealership, so I'm thinking about this dealership. This store. I only live 15 minutes from here. I can remember before Kevin got here, people were talking horrible. Nobody would come work here. Like it was a bad dealership, and there's a bunch of other reasons why that I can't get into. But he came in, and every manager, he brought some, let some go. He said, "Give me your business cards. We have no more titles. We're just going to serve." That's the first thing he did, but that's the mindset. So it's the law of attraction, right? And this is the most important one. Well, not the most important one. Law of attraction. I think they're 1 and 1A, and but it's hard for people like us to do. It's the law of duplication. It's the law of duplication. Let me duplicate myself. And I can remember letting go, because in the beginning, CarNow was Me. And I was the only one doing the demos, and I was the only one. So when I had to let somebody else do a demo, I was like, oh my gosh. But it's the law of attraction, law of duplication. And quite frankly, and I've told, I met some of these people and we hugged, and I'm not going to mention names, but we hugged and there was some tears shed uh, at NADA, because there's some people that left for various reasons, and it doesn't matter, but they're all in higher positions than when they were here. They're VP and up. They're CM, all these things, and they come and they hug your neck and they tell you thank you. And you can just have church right there. Now, things happen in life, but I really believe, Brooke, that humility is, and sometimes we get humbled when we don't want to get humbled. And I've been humbled, trust me, over the last few years. There's no doubt, and we don't want to get into that. But, I think it's just a mindset. And our mind as leaders, it's so powerful. Our mind as human beings is so powerful. They wrote it in a book a long time ago. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'll tell you a brief story, and I hope you don't, I'll just take a few minutes. But one of the most impactful things that happened to me a little less than a year ago. In fact, it was less than a year ago. I think it was March of last year. I was at a fundraiser here in Atlanta for a particular private school, and Ben Carson I shared this story on Clubhouse today. Ben Carson was the keynote speaker. And some of you, whether you agree with his politics or not, he's a brilliant human being. And Ben Carson told the story that when he was, I think 9 or 10 years old, he found out in Detroit, Michigan, that his dad had an entirely a whole other family, other siblings, other wife, blah, blah, blah. So his mama divorced his dad, rightfully so. So him and his sweet third grade educated mama went to, and him and his brother went to this government housing, and she couldn't read. And Ben Carson, who ran for president in 2016, was called dummy. He was called dummy in class because he just unplugged. He didn't care. He was called dummy. But his sweet mama, who could not read herself, reached out to him and his brother and said, boys, I want you to read a book, and I want you to write a report, and I want you to read that to me. So he did that, and he said, something happened in my brain. I began to hunger for knowledge. And it was in the 60s or 70s, I believe. And he would go to the library, and everybody, and now instead of the dummy, he was the smartest kid, not only in the class, but the school. And we know the history of Ben Carson with his obviously run for president. He was the first he was one of only, I think, a half a dozen African-American neurosurgeons in the world at the time. He was the first human being of any race or color that did a successful craniotomy separation on Siamese twins. But this is what I want everybody to lean in a little bit and get. It got quiet, and he said, this is what I don't want you to miss. I had the same brain. I had the same brain. The same brain that people called me dummy. The same brain that people called, is now a neurosurgeon, is now running for president, is now getting ready to be in the next cabinet in this administration. It's the same brain. And when we humble ourselves and we understand, I just finished a chapter in a book that Damien Bordeaux and myself and Ali Rita have finished. And the title of the chapter is Don't Fall for the Yeah Buts. Because people, we as humans, we get the yeah buts. Yeah, but you don't understand my situation. Yeah, but I'm divorced. Yeah, but my kids are crazy. Yeah, but we can't use that. I don't have the staff. Yeah, but you a million yeah, but my market, you don't understand my market. The yeah buts get here.
Amen.
And the key, quite frankly, life, but the key to especially is the dealership to get the yeah buts out and determine that this is what I'm going to, and then we go back because I can handle today. Bring everything you got to me today, because I got today, right? And then what happens is, and it's beautiful, when we have that, again, mindset, right? Those days turn into weeks. Those weeks turn into months. Those months turn into years. And you have radically changed not only the culture, but the financial tailwind of your situation. So I don't want to think it's that easy because it's hard, because by nature, buts, we see somebody successful and we might praise them and like them with the world of likes on social media, but secretively we're hoping that they fall down to say, haha, you're just like
Yep.
me, right? Breaking through, having that breakthrough mindset, forget about it. It's over. We can do anything that we want to do. Hold on.
Stand by.
Motion detector lights in this conference room. Yeah, I am in the middle of the conference room, and it is motion detector lights. So sorry, I was not doing a little dance.
It's all good, man. So my gym, I always go I go the sauna afterwards, and like the whole bathroom is on timer. So I'll be sitting in the sauna, and like all the lights go off. I'm like, well, give it one of these. Like we're gonna do that here. So
yeah,
totally fine. And there's I know I was raised by a mother that there are not those that know me know my mom. So but there's no but there. I learned at a very early age was that it does not matter how shitty your situation is, how little you have. That positive mindset will overcome so much of that. Does that mean you're going to have money overnight, or you're going to have everything's going to be, rainbows and butterflies? No. But that positive mindset, you put two people in the same situation, one is going to prosper. I mean, there are very few that know my background, and I'm not going to get into that. I can just tell you that statistically, I should not be here. I should be in jail. Yeah. I should be dead. I should not be here. And I 120% attribute that to my mother and what she did to instill with us to say, you take that positive aspect. Doesn't matter what you have going against you. One, there's a reason why I sign off all my shows with Find a Way to Serve, because that is so ingrained in me from my mother. And also to say, hey, it may be a really crappy situation, but let's find the positive. And that doesn't mean that everything's going to go away. I mean, she had a horrific battle with cancer and is no longer with us. I mean, so even in that positive mindset, it's not that it's going to fix everything. Everything's going to be better. But I'll tell you what, your life is a hell of a lot better if you can change that mindset. Because I can tell you that smile that you give to someone is contagious. You do not know what that's going through on their life. They may be having the worst time possible. They may be having plans to end their life. They may be doing whatever. And that kind smile, that kind gesture, that act of service can have this ripple effect that is infinite. And yet, do we take the time to look at that and just say, oh, it's my situation? No, you know what? Everyone has crappy situations. To be quite honest, someone is going to have it worse than you. So get out of your own way and look to see how you can improve yourself. And there's my soapbox for the days.
No, let me tell you something. It's and I just lost my mom a couple years ago too. And not only did she taught me how to live, she taught me how to pass. She was still loving on people, serving people, and giving stuff away up until the last couple of days where the pain medicine took over, and because she had cancer as well. But if I could just pour into your listeners and give them two things, and you touched on it briefly, we all go through stuff, your team, that person, for whatever reason, everybody, life is not easy, and everybody goes through stuff. My wife and I were feeling, which you've met, we're feeling sorry for ourselves. My house burnt down. My dad had a stroke. My mom passed away. My partner, like all these things you think about. But there's two things that I think and I dare you, as we say in Kentucky, I dare you, I double dog dare you to try this for 7 days. When I wake up any morning, and I'm not going to preach, but when I wake up any morning, no matter what your faith is or whether you have no faith is, I'm telling you, if you wake up grateful, y'all, I'm grateful for the little things. And when I say little things, God, thank you that I can see, that I can hear, that I can walk, seeing my dad in a wheelchair and not being able to go to the bathroom on himself, that I can walk, that I can do these. Thank you that there's food in my refrigerator. Thank you that I have a roof over my head. And I don't want to seem trivial with that stuff, but that's real. And I want to remind everyone of, as bad as oh my God, I got these many cars over 60 days. We all have stuff. But the first thing is wake up with gratitude, because here, listen to this. And you touched on it. There are millions and millions of people laying in hospital beds this second, begging God to have your problems. Let me say that again. There are millions and millions of people this second begging God to have your problems right now. So I think when you start the day with gratitude, okay, and then you might, look, trust me, get me behind the wheel. I'm a different person. Like that slow person in the fast lane. Like I'm
Yes.
not perfect. Like there's a lot of things that I need
Lose it.
help on. But you start the day with gratitude. You end the day with reflection. Let me look at the game film.
Yep.
How could I have been a better husband today? How could I have been a better leader today? How could I have been a better daddy today? How could I? Oh, I miss that. I ask my team all the time, in a world of social media, in a world where people are measured on their likes, I want you to look in the mirror because your little baby, your little son, your little daughter, your significant other are counting on you. And you ask yourself, did I do every single thing that I could today? And I'll tell you, in my own life, a lot of the times the answer is no. I could have made an extra phone call. I could have took that person aside and loved on them a little bit. There's always something, but learn that. So I dare you, I double dog dare you. Wake up with gratitude, thankful for the little things. Number two, end the day with reflection and reviewing your game film on how to get better the next day so we don't make the same mistakes. I dare you to do it. See me in 7 days. Call me. It'll change your life.
And it will. Our mutual friend Lori Halter, when she's on the show, one of the time, I think it was the first time, we got into her gratitude journal, and that is something that when I talk and converse with people that are just it's difficult to talk to them. Like I don't want to be around someone that's just constant negative. And I always say to them, like, hey, give me 5 things for which you're grateful. And if you can't think of anything, I know you maybe don't want to be here on Earth, so maybe breathing's not one for you. But do you have electricity? Do you have water?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
but
I'm
really look at
telling you.
those things. Because I would say that, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to be here anyway." It's like, okay, then okay, we'll scrap that one. But let's look at some other things and how quickly they were like, "Oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't." I go, see if you can add to this every day. If not, repeat the same things over and over again. Because that attitude of gratitude, which we get so focused on in November, but then forget it the other 11 months out of the year,
That's right.
what it does to us even at a chemical level is, and there's been so many studies where like when you serve someone, like what it actually does to you, it's just crazy. But looking at that and saying, what is it I'm grateful for today? And then it doesn't have to be the grandeur. Oh, Brooke got a new pair of shoes, or, whatever it may be. I said it trivially, but like really looking and seeing what it is, because it makes your life better. And makes those people around you want to gravitate towards you, because this aura that you have now that you're this positive, grateful person, it just resonates with people at the end of the day. It really does.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's okay to have those friends close to you that you can just let it go. The screaming in the pillow, for example, like, but then you get it all out. I've got a couple of them, Joe and Bob are that for me. I can, this is going to, but through each other, right. We lift each other up. And then you go out and you serve others. And it's been incredible thus far, for sure.
Amen. Amen. Well, Tim, we are at that point where we are going to jump into the lightning round with the one and only Tim Cox. So for those that are watching, you can see his QR code right below here. But those that are listening in podcast land, how can they get in touch with you and how can they find you?
I'll give you my cell phone because I would ask you to text me first. Hey, this is so-and-so, because that would just help me out a lot if your number is not stored. My cell phone number is 770-480-7695. Again, that's 770-480-7695. Love to hear from you. Love to help you, whether you use this or not. There's a lot of people that call me, and they end up usually using. But I mean, if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, I'll be happy to. And then my email is tim@carnow.com. But because I'm usually on a plane, train, or automobile, the best way is to text me and say, hey, this is ABC, and I'd love to chat, and I'll be happy to communicate accordingly.
And it is like, I obviously on the show for a minute now, and it is rare that someone in your position gives out their phone number. And I will say, I'll be the first to tell you all that he will get back to you. Like whatever it is, they'll get back to you. So just understand that we're all very crazy. So it may take a little bit, but overall, like,
does that mean my position, I'm sitting down now or
dealership sitting down with the automatic lights. Let's go with that.
Okay. That's okay. I'm glad I'm thankful that I'm in any position at this point. But anyway, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes. All right. So the name of the show is Facts Not Feelings, as you well know. So how do you distinguish facts from feeling? It can be in your personal life or it can be in your professional life.
I just look at the data. I mean, we look in professional life, Bob and I just looked at a data set of over 80 million leads. Let me say it again,
80.
80 million, and then dictate customer behavior. And then now we know how consumers are going to react. That's why we did the hybrid AI and things that so I'd like to look at data, and then also in my personal life on how others react around me. I gave a talk, and I'm pretty inspired to make this hope, because I just did a little portion of that book. I'd really like to write, but I talk about all the time, what's it like to be on the other side of you? And my wife reminds me sometimes what it's like to be on the other side of me. So I think on a personal level, don't take yourself too serious. And I think the people that I think it's pretty easy to see the people that are social media kings or queens, and then the people that aren't, that people that are truly genuine, that truly want to love on people regardless of their flaws and their freckles and everything else. I like freckles, by the way. My wife has freckles anyway, but yeah. I think it's just reaction. Like my wife, thank God for her. In fact, today is our 28th anniversary.
No way. Happy anniversary, man.
Yeah. I've been with her 32 years, and she's put up with me, and God put her in my life to keep me humble. But in all seriousness, she does complete me, and she is an incredible human being. And it's funny, when I had the privileges of being with the Pahankas at a dealer offsite and pouring into their people, and everybody likes Angie better than me. So Angie closes more business than I do. So, but in all seriousness, what I'm trying to say is she holds me accountable. So that's how I can tell. She's like, hey, you know how you always tell people what's it like to be on the other side of you? Well, let me just tell you right now, it sucks. So the reaction that you get, right? Oh, and then you because we're human, right? Then we have to put ourselves in check. All right, I am being a jerk. Okay, I am so sorry. So that one's pretty easy, and that is a fact, and you can call her. Not going to give her.
I love her.
She's the best.
She really is. Yeah, like we all love you, but at the end of the day, we're all going to be choosing her. So just so you know, so as long as you're okay with that,
that's okay. I'm good with it.
All right, let's run it out with what is one thing that most people wouldn't know about you.
One thing that most people would not know about me. I can do almost every imitation of every character in Shrek.
For those that don't know, one of the hardest times I've ever laughed was at a digital dealer. We're at dinner. Yep. You know where I'm going with this. And you and I knew each other, but I was like, who is this person? That was epic night.
Yeah, she called me a steed. I'm a stallion, baby. Not my buttons, not my gumdrop buttons. Quiet donkey, you're going the right way for a smack bottom. That's right. We could stay up all night till the man is toast, and then in the morning we could cook. Wow. So I go to those guys when I need help every once in a while. But yeah, that's probably something that people don't know about me.
Yeah, and those are not the only impressions he does. Like, he is very, very talented in impressions. So yeah, I apologize. He doesn't know anything. He does not do impressions at all. What am I talking about?
Yeah, so please don't ask me to do impressions. Anyway.
All right. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. And as always, just thank you for everything that you do and for who you are. I know my life is forever better since meeting you. And obviously I wouldn't have a name of a podcast without you. So I just appreciate everything you're doing and just the humans that you are.
Likewise. Thank you, Brooke.
Yes, for the same way. So with that, everyone, you all know the drill at this point. Find a way to serve a day, whether that's opening a car door, whether it's a kind smile. Just do something to bring a little bit of joy into someone's life and make their day a little bit better. And with that, everyone, we'll see everybody next week.